Sport Clips presents Haircut Highlight Reels featuring Rick. There goes Rick. He throws down for the MVP experience, gets his hairstyle, beard trimmed, and he's out. Get in line online at sportclips.com/check-in and get your hair in the game like Rick.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you on a Monday morning. Glad you're here with us. Trey Wingo here. Jordan Rodgers, Bachelor guy, and SEC Network guy is here as Mike Golic is off at the Monday after the Masters, which means he's probably already 3 or 4 beers in.
At what point are we getting text updates? I mean, he can't be up yet, right? Or are they starting it early?
He's probably started early. There's no question about that. The question is, will he make it to the 18th hole? That now is the goal.
You know what's the most telling? When you start drinking and you're playing golf is about hole 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You start to realize if you went too hard those first couple holes and if you have the endurance to make it.
I love the fact that you actually have a ratio on this. I'm very impressed. I mean, you've obviously put in a lot of time.
I've played golf in Cabo. I've played golf in Cabo, and they have those little comfort stations every 4 holes. You hit 2 of those.
Yeah.
You start to really assess, can I hit the ball off the tee anymore?
All right, so we're good. We'll see. We'll get an update. We'll get an update throughout the day. Again, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. This hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Hey, speaking of win and winning and windy, ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Brian Windhorst joining us now. Brian, thanks for being with us. First and foremost, how much are you buying into the Sixers and what they've been able to do and sort of create an aura around this team with a 14-game winning streak and now a 50-win season after what was the process has turned into potential?
Trey, it's a really fair question, especially because they haven't missed a step since losing Embiid, who a lot of people believe is still their best player, although Ben Simmons has been phenomenal. They have continued to win and continued to win playing their style. And they are a big mystery because, number one, they don't have much playoff experience on their roster. And that always shows up in the postseason. But they've also been able to be so flexible without Embiid, and they play elite-level defense. They've been the number 1 defensive team in the league since January 1st. They have all kinds of length. They have the recipe for what you would expect for a team that would be successful in the postseason, and they're playing their best basketball. My experience tells me that their experience will matter, but I also am sitting here saying the steal sign is being shown in the Eastern Conference. Could they be the one to do it? I'm going to wait and watch.
Well, it is fascinating, Brian, because sometimes what you don't know can be just as important as what you do know. Because if you've been around for a while, you start thinking about things in a different way. When you're a young team that, hey, let's just let it all hang out there and see how it shakes, sometimes the victory for the uncluttered mind can be the best possible thing.
Yeah, and I don't want to overreact to any single regular season game, but that victory over the Cavs, which knocked them into the side of the bracket where they're going to play a lesser team in the first round. They might have gotten India, and they still have to win their last 2 games, but if they do, they get a lesser first-round team than Indiana, who's playing very well. Then they're on the same side of the bracket as the Celtics, who are just – they're gutty and they're gritty. They just lost to the Hawks at home yesterday. They're a shell of what there should be. I don't want to say it's a bye, but going on the other side of the bracket, having to deal with the Raptors and the Pacers, much more difficult. And so, in addition to the fact that I've been very, very impressed with the way they're playing, they have manufactured and with some fortune smiling on them after years of bad fortune, they have guaranteed themselves the easiest setup. Well, they haven't guaranteed it. They got to get there. They got to win the last 2. But if they win these last 2 games, they have set themselves up with the best path to the finals of any team in the NBA. And for a team that's the hottest team in the league with the best path, you have to pay attention to that, and I certainly am.
And that, Brian, brings up a really fascinating question. How much credit should Sam Hinkie get for this by setting this whole process in motion? I get it. So many people don't want to talk about trying to lose for 3 or 4 straight seasons, but it certainly looks like the end result is beginning to pay off here.
Well, I mean, I think when you look at something that's constructed, everybody who's had their hand on it gets some credit. When you look at this Sixers team, they have tremendous length on their roster. Maybe one of the most daunting things I've ever seen. I mean, they have a 6'10" guy playing point guard who's elite level defensively, and you look down who they play, and all they have is long-armed, athletic guys, they are the team that is built for the future of the NBA. Where I think Hinkie gets the credit, maybe more than what this team is constructed is now, is what happens next. Because they have this trove of assets, because they have this they have so many guys on good contracts, they are in position to make a major trade if they want, and to sign a major free agent without disrupting their team or going into the luxury tax. That's where Sam Hinkie's work is really going to pay off, is where they can step to the next level. Because even now, as well as they've played, they're still not a top 5 NBA team. Maybe I'll change my mind on that when we get to the conference finals if they're there. They haven't quite proven that they're there yet, but they are as upwardly mobile as any team in the league, and that's because of how he stored assets and swallowed all those losses for years. And that's why, regardless of what happens, Trey, between now and June 20th, or when the finals are over, the 76ers are going to be perhaps the most interesting team to watch in around the draft and in July because of what they have in their cupboard, and that's due to Sam Hinkie.
Let's jump over to the West with the injuries that the Warriors have sustained. And even when KD's at his best, lighting it up, it seems like it's not translating to the wins. Are the Rockets the team to beat in the West? Is it too early to say that?
Jordan, I feel like the Warriors and the Cavs, it's kind of like a contractor who's in the middle of redoing your kitchen. You walk in midway through and you're like, oh, my God, there's beams laying on the ground. This isn't going to fit. But you're like, wait a minute, I remember I've seen this work this contractor's done, and I remember the plans. And you sort of say, I guess it'll happen on time, and you hope. And because when I look at the Cavs and the Warriors, I see both teams that still have all the ingredients that it takes. But I can shoot holes all the way through. I can make a legitimate case for why the Cavs are going out in the second round. I can make a legitimate case for why this Warriors team has shown all sorts of signs of wiggling from their mountaintop because of their injuries and their lack of focus. But at the end of the day, I honestly believe that they're both going to carry the water. And if they don't get another major injury, I still believe Steph Curry will be a tremendous factor on this postseason. I still believe that the Warriors can play defense at a very high level when they want to. Even last night, there were certain possessions in the game against the Suns. I know it's a game against the worst team in the league, where Draymond Green was back to playing the type of defense that won him Defensive Player of the Year a year ago. So I can't sit here and tell you, like I'm standing in the middle of my halfway redone kitchen, that it's all going to be fine. But history is on their side, and I'm more inclined to go with a team that's done it and is going to have their full team when it matters.
Brian Windhorst, our ESPN NBA insider, with us on Golic and Wingo this morning. So when push comes to shove, you're all in on a fourth straight Warriors-Cavs final.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it, because I look at the Rockets and I look at the 76ers and I say, my God, are these great teams? And some of the things the Raptors have done this year have been impressive. But at the end of the day, I have immense respect for what LeBron does, and I have immense respect for the Warriors, who, when they're healthy, have 2 MVPs on their roster. And my experience pulls me towards believing those 2 teams are going to be there at the end. But what I think we're going to get, remember, last year the Cavs went 12-1 in the East playoffs. Snooze fest. Warriors went 12-0 in the West playoffs. Snooze fest.
Right.
What I think we're going to get, I hope at least, is several rounds of great playoff basketball where the favorites are going to be tested and maybe even beaten. And I think for the game, I think no matter what happens, that's probably going to be good.
Brian, I agree. It was just a race to get to what we all knew was going to happen last year. So then the question becomes, okay, what is more of a concern to you for these 2 teams? Is it the relative health of the Warriors, who continue to the war of attrition, playing all these games, all these years in a row, no matter what sport it is, it can wear you down. So is it the health of the Warriors or the uncertainty of what Cavs team are we going to see game in and game out? Which one is more of a concern for you?
I think the most important thing for the Warriors is the health of Steph Curry. I've been filling out my awards ballot this weekend. I'm putting Steph Curry on the second-team All-NBA, even though he only, I think, is going to end up playing 51 games, because he played at such a high level. And if he comes back and plays at that same level, they're going to be the best team again. That's an if. I have to see it. Over in Cleveland, the Cavs, when they want to be, are a halfway decent defensive team. And when they don't want to be, are one of the worst defensive teams I've ever seen on a team with a winning record. And so to me, it's going to come down to, can the Cavs lift their finger to play defense when it matters? And can Steph Curry come back? If those two things happen, I think we'll see a 4th straight finals. But there is a wide variance there. And my eyes are wide open on the Rockets and 76ers for sure.
ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst with us. I'm glad you used the phrase as I'm filling out my awards bracket, because I got into sort of an interesting debate and discussion with some of the people here, how it seemed like sometime in January we all just sort of seeded, oh yeah, the MVP is going to go to James Harden this year. And quite frankly, he's having an unbelievable season, just like he did last year. You could have given him the MVP last year and I wouldn't have had a problem with it. You could give him the MVP this year, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But it seems like we sort of seeded the argument without the season being over. Could you make a very, very legitimate case that LeBron James, with everything that's gone on around him, he's played in every game, he's 33 years old, the numbers and the percentage of what he does for his team is just as significant, if not more significant, and that's more valuable to his team than anything Harden has done for the Rockets?
So, Trey, I've been grappling with this, and I've been talking to some people that I trust and some experienced people. I haven't made up my mind yet, and one of the reasons is because when I make a vote for MVP, I take it very seriously, and I really take the All-NBA team very seriously too, because that determines contract values for players. I want to be on the right side of history with MVP votes. And maybe I'm, an optimist and a cockeyed fool, but I want to be able 10 years from now to be able to defend the vote. I still, to this day, defend my vote of Steve Nash over Shaquille O'Neal back in 2006, and I feel that I made the right vote because I feel like Steve Nash changed the way the NBA was played. No offense to Shaq. My sense of history is the alarm bells ringing here, because what LeBron has done at age 33 and carried this team, and the way he's playing, and the fact that he's going to have a chance to run down Michael Jordan in the conversation. In 10 years, am I going to regret if I go with James Harden now? The answer is I might, and that's a serious consideration for me. You can make statistical cases for both sides. Trust me, they're out there. You can go find them, and if you want to create a paper, you could turn in a paper that defends either one based on stats. I'm going to push the stats aside and just based on what I'm seeing. I've also never seen anybody dominate several aspects of the game the way James Harden is this year. He's playing a level offensively, especially in an isolation offense, that maybe the NBA has never seen. And his proficiency at dominating on that level is maybe as high as LeBron's ever has been in any aspect. So I'm really struggling here with how to put the sense of history in it and how to put what James Harden has done. The thing about it is that it is not a historical award. It is not a career body of work award. Ultimately, when you submit your vote for the 2017-18 season, and that season runs from October all the way through April. And what happens in January and what happens in November is just as important in that body in a lot of ways as March and April. And so because of that, I do believe that the entire season, the 6-month season, James Harden has the edge on LeBron. And I'm probably going to end up going that direction, but I have been concerned about the history. And if LeBron walks away from this game with only 4 MVPs, and yet I felt like he was the best player year after year for 10 years, I don't know how I feel about that.
So when do you have to have your vote in? When do you need to make your decision by?
Well, technically by Wednesday, but I'm going to tell you that the NBA is going to start rattling our chain by this afternoon. And I'm not one of these guys who likes to turn it in early. For example, 2 weeks ago, Trey, I kind of was making a case for Donovan Mitchell over Ben Simmons for Rookie of the Year because Ben Simmons got a development year last year. I was having trouble breaking the tie,
right,
and I was leaning towards Donovan Mitchell. Then Ben Simmons has had an incredible finish without Joel Embiid, and now I'm going with Ben Simmons. So I do care about these kind of things, and I take it seriously. And Coach of the Year ballot, for example, is very difficult to figure out, and you may want to see where some of these teams finish. We still have a lot of liquidity in the standings. But the NBA will be rattling the chain for me today. About 4 o'clock, I'll get an email saying, hey, by the way, your ballot's due.
All right, well, we need you to tell us on this show when you decide that vote, who that vote is getting to. That has to happen, Wendy.
We can negotiate that.
Everything's negotiable. By the way, I'd just like to throw out Russell Westbrook is 34 rebounds shy in his last 2 games of having a second straight year with averaging a triple-double, which has never happened before in NBA history, and he's not even being part of the consideration, really, for MVP again this year. Brian, we appreciate you being with us, man. I look forward to hearing how this shakes out in your mind.
Thanks, Trey. Have a good week.
All right, man. That was interesting, right? I mean, I've sort of been talking about that over the last couple of weeks. Just look, I get it. James Harden's playing great. Don't get me wrong. He's played unbelievable. But I think we're all sort of sleeping on the idea of exactly what we're seeing out of LeBron 15 years in at the age of 33, playing every game, having to do it with 5 different cast of characters. And look, Harden is great. But you take away James Harden for the Rockets, take away LeBron James from the Cavs, which team is still more likely to be a playoff team? It's got to be the Houston Rockets.
And he said it. I love how he said it, too. You kind of got to look at it as a human being almost at times. We can look at stats, and we get caught up with stats more often than not, even though slightly it seems we're overlooking Russell Westbrook's achievements if he does get those 34 rebounds. But what he has done, how he has done it, his age, it's not a career achievement, as he mentioned, but you have to take that into account.
Yeah. I mean, look, he said it. I mean, you know, what I thought was really interesting about Windy said there, he said, if this guy retires as one of the top 2 or 3 players to play the game and he only has 4 MVPs, I think I've done something wrong. He said he didn't want to be on the wrong side of history. That was the most fascinating thing I thought about because, look, some guys are gimmicky with their ballots. They'll just fill it out whatever and they'll put some stuff in there. What I appreciate about a guy like Windy is that he takes this really seriously. I mean, and if you're going to have that vote, you should take it that seriously. And just as a personal note, I appreciate someone who has that responsibility and treats it as a responsibility, not something that is an obligation.
And I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, the build-up there I thought was going to end up on LeBron's side, but at the end there, didn't he throw in, say he's leaning towards James Harden?
He's still leaning toward it, but we'll see how it goes out.
He needs to knock all the sawdust, and he's remodeling his kitchen, knock all that off and pencil in LeBron.
And the interesting thing, normally Brett, our researcher, is on the show 700 times. He hasn't been on the show yet today, so I want to bring in Brett. Listen, we said we need Russell needs a 34 rebounds over the last 2 games, average a triple-double, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that would mean 17 a game. What's the most he's ever had in a game?
19.
Okay, how many times has he had 19, or how many times, do we know how many times in a career he's had 17 or more?
17 or more, 11.
11, so it's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible.
It is possible. And also, you just have to, we were talking about this in the break, you just have to take into account that Russell Westbrook is a maniacally competitive guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he will risk life and limb to go get as many rebounds as possible if need be.
Isn't that what we want to see?
Absolutely.
I mean, that to me is the funny part of this. Let's say, do they play tonight or do they play tonight?
I have to look at their schedule. I believe they play tonight and they play Wednesday.
By the way, Stanzik now jumping in on Brettomology here. In mid-December, he had back-to-back 17 rebound games. So, I mean, but to your point, Brett, the idea that let's say he needs 20 boards in the final game to get there, dude, I am watching that game because Russell Westbrook is having none of it. No one else gets to touch the ball.
He's knocking over every player on the court, including his own, to get every rebound.
Nobody else gets a chance to touch that basketball if Russell Westbrook has the opportunity to do what has never been done in NBA history before, which is have back-to-back seasons averaging a triple-double. And it's not even being talked about. That's how weird this whole thing is. You know, like last year, James Harden played great, but there was the triple-double thing. Look, he averaged a triple-double. Hadn't been happening since Oscar Robertson did it, in the 60s. So, of course, we're going to give Russell Westbrook the MVP. And now he may do it again.
Which is more impressive.
Which is more impressive. And it's not, oh, yeah, we're over that.
How we're not?
We be over that quickly? So the debate now going forward, I think, is absolutely fascinating in what we've talked about going forward with the MVP award in the NBA. And I'm glad that Windy came on and was so honest about it. Speaking of being honest, how honest can we be when we're talking about what we're seeing from Giancarlo Stanton? Something that's never been done before, and it's happened 10 games into the regular season, and it's not the history anybody's looking for.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident When it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life, Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Next. You're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee-oh! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Well, we continue with you, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jordan Rodgers in for Mike Golic, who might be just taking his first practice swing at the Monday after the Masters right now. Jordan, of course, from The Bachelor and also works with us at the SEC Network. Glad you're with us, and you'll be with us again tomorrow.
I will.
Looking forward to it.
If you'll have me back.
Well, we'll talk
see.
about that after
we got
the
time.
show. Nah, you're good. It has been an interesting start to the baseball season for a lot of reasons. For what has happened, what hasn't happened, and what's only happened once to the Boston Red Sox, which is a loss. Lots to get to, so let's bring in our baseball insider, Buster Olney, the Baseball Tonight podcast, proud Vanderbilt graduate.
Go Doors.
And, of course, there you go. I knew you'd go there. And, of course, also I'm part of Sunday Night Baseball. Buster, let's start with what isn't working for Giancarlo Stanton. A double platinum sombrero. That has never happened before in a single season, and it's happened 10 games in. 5 strikeouts, no hits. It's happened twice. What is going on?
Yeah, and it's good to see you class up your show with a Vanderbilt guy. I'll
there
start
you
with
go.
that.
There we go.
Now, there's no doubt about it that he's putting too much pressure on himself. He's putting a ton of pressure on himself. ESPN Stats and Information sent out a great packet overnight about all the big stars that have come to the Yankees in the past, the Reggie Jackson, Alex Rodriguez, Jason Chamblee, and there is a recurring theme. When they get there at the outset, they struggle because they know how much the fans want them to do well. They feel the pressure, and it reflects in their swings. Another number that really jumped out at me this morning in looking at some of the stuff that was sent out is that he has struggled on fastballs. I mean, you've got a guy who does so much damage on fastballs. The fact that that's the pitch that is perplexing him right now tells you it's just a matter of him just calming down, of having some success, of having some ease, because all this is a big adjustment. You know, some of the writers who covered him down in Miami wondered, how is he going to deal the first time when he goes through a stretch like this, when he's got 20 idiots like me who are wanting to talk to him and have him break down his swing and all the problems that he's having. And I think we're seeing it, and I think it's going to take some time for him to settle in.
Well, that's the interesting thing here, because you look at not only is it fastballs that he's missing with, Buster, but his fastballs around the heart of that lineup where he's protected on either side. So that clearly tells you it's just a matter of pressing at this point, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what Aaron Boone said. And, I mean, he struggled to the point that we saw Buck Showalter intentionally walk Aaron Judge to get to him because he could see how much he's pressing. And I do wonder, guys, just, the first time in watching him play, having heard through the years from so many right-handed hitters about, wow, when you go to Fenway Park and you see the green monster, you find yourself trying to aim at it, and it kind of messes you up. In these first games he's playing for the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, it's almost like he's trying to aim the ball toward that short porch in right field. Right. And you wonder how much of an impact that's having on him as well.
Well, what's a bigger concern for you, Buster, right now? Is it the Giancarlo Stanton slump, or is it the bullpen, which has really been a problem for Aaron Boone so far for the Yankees?
I would say the bullpen, and it's because of the volatility of bullpens. Look, we came into the year thinking the Yankees are the best bullpen in baseball. There are probably 29 other teams who would love to trade for the arms, but the other day I was talking with Mike Rizzo, the general manager of the Nationals, and he goes, boy, if you can predict relievers, let me know. Because they tend to go up and down year to year. Tommy Kahnle, was moved by the Yankees at the beginning of his career because of his command issues. Last year, became an all-star caliber reliever for the White Sox. They trade for him. He's down. David Robertson has struggled. Dylan Betances, with some of the stuff that he's going through with his command at the end of last year. They have to get him right, but at this point, they probably are concerned about it.
Buster, from a hot start by Ohtani, you said you think that Stanton's going to turn things around. Is Ohtani's start, is that sustainable? I mean, nobody can hit his splitter right now. 13 Ks, 0 for 19 batters against his splitter. Is his success sustainable? As you just said, you think Stanton is going to come back around?
Yeah, and there was a great tweet I saw last night in which someone pointed out that so far this season, Shohei Ohtani has more home runs than Aaron Judge and more strikeouts than Max Scherzer. So I'd say probably not. I guess it's probably not sustainable. But I think he's put to rest all those concerns about him in spring training when writers were wondering if he was going to be sent to the minor leagues. Privately, from Mike Trout to Billy Epler, their general manager, Mike Scioscia, they're all saying, look, we believe in this guy's talent. We think he's going to be fine moving forward. And that's what we've seen as soon as the season started. He got settled in. That splitter that he has, unbelievable. Hitters 0 for 19 against that pitch, and the power. And Trout talked about that the first time after he took batting practice with him. He said, you have to remind yourself when you see this guy driving the ball 450 feet, oh, yeah, he also throws 101 miles per hour. Third highest average fastball velocity so far this year in the big leagues.
And so that's the thing, Buster, does he have enough variability in his pitches to not get figured out? We see pitchers that come in with a huge curveball and they're great for a year or two, and then hitters start to figure that out. Does he have enough of the fastball and the splitter to stay sustainable for many years?
Jordan, no doubt about it. I mean, that's one of the great things about him is that he's got actually a great breaking ball. We're seeing how hitters are struggling with that splitter, and to have a fastball and to have that variation in speeds between his off-speed stuff and his fastball gives him a great chance. And remember, he's only 23 years old. He's still learning the league. He's still learning how to pitch.
Buster Olney with us, the Baseball Tonight podcast, part of our Sunday Night Baseball crew as well. So what's been more impressive to you, the way he's been pitching or the way he's been hitting?
The way he's been hitting, to be honest with you, because there was no doubt among teams that were interested. And, let's face it, all 30 teams would have loved to have had him. But there was no doubt in the minds of a lot of evaluators that he was going to be an elite-level starting pitcher. The question, I think, was about him offensively, especially with the regimen that he has, where he has a start on one day, and then he has a day off, and then he moves into a DH role, then he has another day off, then he makes a start, especially coming over to Major League Baseball, learning a new set of pitchers. I think there was some question about, okay, what are the adjustments that he's going to have to make? Is he going to be able to do that? And we still, to Jordan's point, you're going to see some adjustments from pitchers, and they try to find holes. He is sort of that classic, kill the ball in the lower half of the strike zone. I'm sure he's going to see a lot of stuff in the upper half of the strike zone moving forward as pitchers try to find his weakness. But at the outset, to see the power right away, remarkable. The other day, guys, after he hit his third home run, he was facing Liam Hendricks of the Athletics. The bases were loaded. The count was 2-0. And typically with a rookie player like Ohtani, you see the pitcher rear back and say, okay, show me you can hit a fastball. He bounced a breaking ball in the dirt to go to 3-0 and walked him rather than challenge him with a fastball. That's some serious respect.
Yeah, it certainly is. Buster Olney with us again. So here's the question. The Red Sox started this season doing something they didn't do all of last year, blowing a lead of 4 or more runs. Didn't happen one time last year. They haven't lost yet. Are the Red Sox ever going to lose again?
I'm guessing they'll probably come down to earth to some degree. And today, a lot of concern about Xander Bogaerts, who, in making a play yesterday, slid into the dugout, and so they're going to get an MRI on him, and he's been swinging the bat so well. But the fact that David Price, and staying with the Vanderbilt team, has come out this year throwing as well as he has is a great sign. Because if you can start out with your rotation with a Chris Sale and a David Price Cy Young caliber like we've seen in his first 2 starts this year, that's a pretty good rotation, and that's pretty daunting for the other teams in the American League.
Well, it certainly is, but then there's another team we have to talk about off to a hot start, and that's the New York Mets at 7-1. You saw them last night on Sunday Night Baseball. What's been the most impressive thing about the Mets so far, according to you?
Man, how much fun they're having.
Right.
And Mickey Callaway, their manager, has made a significant difference. Coming over from the Cleveland Indians, where he'd been a pitching coach. This is someone who hasn't managed before. And we got a taste of his level of confidence over the weekend when we asked him about his adjustment to managing after not having done that before. And he told us a story. And you don't tell these types of stories unless you're pretty self-assured. Told us a story about the first time he dealt with a pitcher who had an injury on the mound, where he goes out and he decides he's making a change. You're calling on a reliever because of an injury, and he starts to walk off the mound with his pitching coach, Dave Island. And Island turns to him and said, Skip, you might want to stay and actually hand the ball to the pitcher coming in. Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to do that in my new job. The players talk about how much fun they're having. You're seeing a difference in everyone from Matt Harvey to Yoenis Cespedes and how they're buying in. And there's no doubt that the series against the Nationals was a statement series for the Mets as they try to run down Washington.
Well, look, I always say it's always fun when you're winning. And then some of those quirky things when you're not winning, that's certainly the reason you're not winning. So everything has to have a little perspective on it. Buster, we appreciate you getting up with us early this morning. Good stuff.
Okay, guys, take care.
When you fly through Heathrow, they have this lounge where if you've been on an overnight flight and you feel like garbage, you can go in and take a hot shower.
Yeah. Just for the fact that there's a shower at an airport says, I just want to take a shower because I can shower.
Right? You do it just to do it. Wait, Devin's saying he wouldn't take the shower?
They better be providing sandals for your feet.
Do you think we're slumming it? Do you live in like a plastic bubble?
I'm Bubble Boy.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Golic and Wingo and Sports Center is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join dollarshaveclub.com today. Jordan Rodgers in for Mike Golic, who's at the Monday after the Masters and presumably still functioning, which would be a win for all of us, as we continue on a Monday morning, and someone is trying to continue a football career, and that would be Johnny Manziel. Manziel over the weekend played in a spring league game. It was about 39 degrees in Austin, Texas, winds gusting up to about 30 miles an hour. I think he was 9 of 15 with a touchdown throw in his first game in 832 days. And there are reports out there that this is driving some interest in seeing if Johnny Manziel can come back and get on an NFL roster. So, Jordan, as a guy who played the position and knows a thing or two about quarterback, when you hear people are interested in Johnny Manziel after a 9 for 15 game with a touchdown and a fumble in a spring league game, that tells you what?
It's complete garbage. No, they're not interested because he went 9 of 15 for 82 yards and scrambled for a touchdown. No, they're not interested because he tossed it around at University of San Diego's pro day. And then again, while I was there, tossed it around at Texas A&M's pro day. Because let me tell you, he didn't necessarily outthrow Luis Perez, the Texas A&M of Commerce quarterback that he was splitting reps with. It doesn't matter. I was walking around talking to scouts, just asking, hey, are you seeing anything? No, there's always intrigue. There's going to always be intrigue with Johnny Manziel because of the magic that he brings to the football field. It doesn't matter what he does in the spring league. Frankly, it doesn't matter what he would do in the CFL, which I think would be that next best step. What matters is our teams willing to deal with the baggage and the off-the-field concern that he comes with. And
yeah, look, he's trying to clean that up, and I'll even say to him on that point, I understand he's going through the process. He's been very open and honest about that. I get that. My bigger concern with him, well, actually, it's twofold. Nothing in a spring game is going to change how I feel about Johnny Manziel. And if it does, you're evaluating people the wrong way. Let's just be honest about that, because we've seen him do it at a much higher level than an NFL spring game, or a developmental league, not an NFL spring game. It would be what he did as a member of the Texas A&M Aggies. So we've seen him make these kind of splash plays. The question becomes twofold for me. Number one, he admitted he didn't study the X's and O's before. Is he going to be doing that now? And how do you evaluate that if you sign him onto your team? Because whatever he does running around on the field is almost irrelevant. To me, is he going to be putting in the work, right? That's the number one thing. Number two, is it just about math? Because as much as Johnny is an exciting player, he's a little dude. Okay, let's just be honest about that. And his preferred way of playing, or at least it was to run around and make a play a la Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger is 6'5", 260 pounds. Johnny Manziel is 5'10" and maybe 200 pounds soaking wet. I'm sorry. That won't work for me. That's not going to ever work at the NFL level. He's got to find a way to play differently. He's got to find a way to play more like Drew Brees. He's got to find a way to play more like Russell Wilson. So for me, those are the two things. There's nothing I'm going to see in a spring league game on the field that's going to make me think, wow, I'm completely changing the way I think about Johnny Manziel. It has to be, if I sign him, do I believe he's completely in on learning how to play the position, and can he play it in the way that's going to be most effective for him to survive at the NFL level?
And I agree with you on that point. His stature, the style in which he plays this game is not suited for a lot of teams or for longevity at that position. However, you have to change your expectation. And really, fans got to forget about Texas A&M, Johnny Heisman, forget about that, because if he ends up on another NFL roster, it won't be as a starter. It'll be as a backup. And actually, I think there is a ton of value if he controls what he does off the field, learns how to be a pro, because you don't have to be the pocket passer. You know what? There's nothing better than a backup that can come in and add a spark by making things happen when plays break down. That is why there is legitimate intrigue for Johnny Manziel to play in the NFL. And I was texting a scout last night because I think he needs to go up to the CFL, because I think we need a greater body of work of him doing it right off the field for teams to say, okay, we'll do it. But actually, the scout said, no, I think he's going to get a shot before this season even starts, which was surprising.
Now, let me ask you that question. Do you think, based on what we've seen of him in the past, he should get that start, or do you think you need to see more of him in the CFL?
I think I would like to see more of him, because I want to see sustainability for him doing things the right way. And right now, yeah, it looks great because you haven't had to do that. You haven't had to wake up at 4 a.m. to get to your 4:45 a.m. quarterback meeting and be there till 9:30 or 10 at night and wake up and do it again without going out, without being on social media, without the party life. I haven't seen enough of it yet to say I think he can consistently do that. But here's the biggest problem, I think. There are teams that won't touch him because of the domestic violence past in history. Yeah. And that in this day and age, that is really concerning. So I think that's actually the biggest hurdle right now.
And to be clear about that, I think you're 100% right. If a team does sign him, the NFL is going to have to suspend this guy. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to suspend him. I mean, they suspended Zeke Elliott because there were allegations from a 2016 incident that a woman claimed that Elliott choked her, threw her up against a wall, dragged her across the apartment. But the Columbus, Ohio Police Department did not press charges because of conflicting and inconsistent information. Again, the allegations against Johnny Manziel. His ex-girlfriend said he forced her into a car, that a valet disregarded her pleas for help, to eventually drove to where the car was parked. She said in an affidavit, she said Manziel got into the driver's seat and began to drive. Crowler said then Manziel stopped when she tried to jump out, then dragged her back inside. She said that she hit her so hard, he ruptured her eardrum. So if you're the NFL and you've already levied a 6-game suspension against Ezekiel Elliott for this situation, you look really bad if you just let Johnny Manziel back into the NFL without having to go through a process with him as well for what happened there. Coming up, Tiger Woods wasn't in contention, but did the Masters still deliver? We'll ask a former pro next. Stay with us.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him,
"Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash?"
His mom was visiting. And Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all.
Sport Clips presents Haircut Highlight Reels featuring Rick. There goes Rick. He throws down for the MVP experience, gets his hairstyle, beard trimmed, and he's out. Get in line online at sportclips.com/check-in and get your hair in the game like Rick.
Ball on its way, and it's in. Patrick Reed has won the 82nd Masters.
To win your first majors is never going to be easy. It definitely wasn't easy today. I knew it was going to be a dogfight, and it was just another one of those mini tests that I had to try to get over in order to win my first major.
Every time he needed to do something, he did it. Every time he made a bogey, he bounced back. There's a lot of people that are a little bit afraid of the moment. He loves the moment.
Golic and Wingo here with you on a Monday morning, the Monday after the Masters. Glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jordan Rodgers of The Bachelor and the SEC Network joins us here as Mike Golic, or Bachelorette, right? I keep saying The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. It's Why haven't you told me before then that I've been saying it wrong the entire time?
I was just going to let you go with it.
No, never do that. Just so never do that. Take full advantage to smack me around whenever you get it. That's
minor detail.
Or whatever. One of those shows where there's a rose, right? We'll do it that way with us. Mike is out at the Monday after the Masters, Darius Rucker's tournament. So we'll look forward to seeing just how horrible
2 mimosas in easily.
Mimosas? This
guy?
He
a mimosa guy?
No. Straight fuel, baby. Tap the vein, plug it in. So we'll see how he survives the next couple of days. Tedy Bruschi will join us in just about 30 minutes to talk about what's going on in New England, what he thinks about Odell Beckham Jr.'s suddenly changed policy when it comes to being around the Giants this offseason, and maybe the idea of what Johnny Manziel might be back in the league. We'll get into that with him a little bit later. But first, let's start like we always do with what's trending. And it's trending right for the Angels and Shohei Ohtani. The pitcher, he's a hitter, he's a pitcher, he's both. He struck out 12 in 7 innings of one-hit ball in his second major league start. Took a perfect game into the 7th inning. Ohtani, now 2-0, was held out of Saturday's game ahead of the Sunday start, but also has a 3-game home run streak as he serves as the DH for the Angels.
Throwing fire, dropping bombs. I mean, no one can hit his splitter, and then he's pumping 100 miles an hour by you. Come on, that's not fair.
Well, look, the amazing thing about what Ohtani has done is the fact that none of this was really on display in spring training. I mean, it just wasn't there.
That's a generous statement,
I mean,
too.
It just wasn't there. His ERA was what, 27, I think it was? So it's amazing. And by the way, he has 2 wins and has hit 3 home runs in the first 10 games. The only people to do that before, 1919 Jim Shaw, of course, for the Washington Senators. And I think we all remember the glory years of Monty Ward with the New York Gothams. That happened back in 1883. The question then becomes, how long is this sustainable, right? I mean, that's the most amazing thing.
I don't think the hitting aspect is going to be as sustainable as it looks right now. 3 home runs, only giving up 1. You and Golic were going back and forth about was he going to hit more. I think he's going to give up more. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be a great hitter and have continued success. But right now in this league, it takes a while to figure out pitchers. And with a splitter and pumping gas that fast as well, he's got good variability. I guess it take longer to figure him out pitching.
Well, again, the last pitcher who within his first 2 career starts had a game in which he went at least 7 innings, allowed 1 hit or fewer, 1 walk or fewer, and struck out at least 12, Steve Woodward in 1997. Before that, Juan Marichal. And that's it ever. Ohtani joined them today, and that's why he has his own music on this show.
I want you to show the way.
Again, that's so bad, it's good. That is the issue with that.
Off the top.
And we continue with what's trending. Giancarlo Stanton is trending in the absolute worst way. He's having a bad week, as he said. 0 for 7, 5 strikeouts in Sunday's extra inning loss to the Oilers. Stanton finished the team's 6-game homestand 3 for 28 with 16 strikeouts. Extra inning loss to the Orioles, rather. He says, just got to look at it as a bad week. Yes, I think you can sum it up as a very bad week for Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, not good. Historically not good. But like I said, we're a week in. I know it's that bad, but there's a lot that's going on. When you put those pinstripes on, you got to deal with the media. You got to deal with the fans' expectations. You know, Judge struggled after coming out hot first half of the season. He ended up struggling second half of the season. This is baseball. You go through moments of it. I know you're going to say, yeah, but no one's ever done that. I get it. I think it'll turn around.
Look, it has to.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't do any worse, right? You can't whiff 6 times in a game, or can you?
You can. He went 0 for 7. He made contact twice. Again, no one has ever done what he's already done in 10 games in a full season, which is have 2 games where he has the platinum sombrero, which is 5 strikeouts and no hits. That's never happened before in a full season. It's happened twice in 10 games, and Giancarlo knows it's got to get better.
Did you expect the fans to be as hard on you as they've been this week?
Sure, yeah. I mean, they're not going to cheer for that, so what do you expect? Just got to look at it as a bad week. Season's much longer than a week, so a couple good games can turn it around and help us win.
Yeah, he's going to need to turn it around, and he's going to need to help them win. The hard part for him, as we had Buster Olney on the show earlier, Jordan, is that he's missing on fastballs. So that tells you he's pressing, right? It's all in his head.
And those are things that you end up getting over. But I will say it's not easy to. because it takes the physical aspect of it to get over it, yet the mental aspect is what's holding him up from hitting what he's normally able to hit. I just question, is he going to have 5 more strikeouts again? Or if you had a chance, would you be able to make contact with the ball? What's more likely?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. For this?
You're not even getting a bat on it?
No chance. No chance in hell. Look, he's hitting in the sweetest spot you could possibly ever have in a lineup ever. Aaron Judge in front of you and Didi behind you. So it's going to come. He's just got to start pressing. The weird part about it is he started off his career in Toronto, first ever game as a Yankee, hit 2 home runs in his Yankee debut, and like, oh, okay, this is all good. And it has been downhill ever since for Giancarlo. But again, they still have 152 games left to play. Hopefully, he won't have the triple platinum sombrero by the time this season is over. And what is a really amazing 180-degree turn, Odell Beckham Jr. expected to be in attendance Monday for the start of the Giants' off-season workout programs. The wide receiver told that to ESPN's Josina Anderson. It's a sign of solidarity as new coach Pat Shurmur and new GM Dave Gettleman attempt to reshape the team's culture. And, of course, they had sort of shopped him out there as trade bait.
Yeah, shopped him, and I think when you start to realize you're wanting them to cut a pretty big check for you, maybe throw them a bone and show up for voluntary workouts. It's really not that hard.
This is a PR move more than anything
big
else.
time.
I mean,
someone in his ear is telling him the right things.
And that's the biggest takeaway here, absolutely, because with what went on last season, with the drama around Odell, with the video, and then John Mara basically saying, hey, we know what's expected of Odell Beckham Jr., and the Giants can say what they want, but Adam Schefter said, look, they may not be shopping him, but they're letting people know what it would take to get him. So technically that means you are shopping him.
And how many times does drawing a hard line like that really work out in the player's favor?
Well, in the NFL, never.
Never.
Quite frankly, because of the way the contracts are structured, it's not guaranteed money. And if you want those big bucks, look, Randy Moss was traded twice, okay? I love people saying, oh, you can never trade a guy like Odell. You did. His name was Randy Moss. It happened twice. Now, it didn't happen this early in his career. I understand all of that. But at the end of the day, the team is going to do what the team wants to do, and the players have as little leverage as possible in the NFL. That's just the way the contracts are. They're written in disappearing ink. The only thing that's guaranteed is that signing bonus. So if they want to try and lock him up for a long, long time, then they've got to be some two-way here. By the way, Coach Pat Shurmur of the Giants just spoke. Odell is in the building for the start of the Giants offseason program. Shurmur saying, quote, he's a professional, and I'm glad he's here today. So again, that ends the drama a little bit for the Giants. We'll see how that plays out going forward. But there was plenty of drama over the weekend at Augusta National at the Masters with Patrick Reed keeping the trend going of first-time major winners. 9 in the last 10 majors has been a first-time major winner. The only repeat winner there would have been Jordan Spieth with the epic comeback last year at the Open Championship when he had that horrible stretch and then finished with 4 of the greatest holes we've ever seen to claim the Claret Jug. But that was another day for another story. It's all about the green jacket. And joining us now, Brandel Chamblee of the Golf Channel with us here. Brandel, thanks for being with us this morning. First and foremost, there was so much hype about this Masters with everything that was going on with Tiger, Phil, and all the young guns. In your opinion, did this Masters live up to its potential?
No, it didn't. You know, the two biggest stories were Tiger and Phil. And it became very clear very early that they were not going to factor into this championship. But beyond that, it turned into pretty much a popularity contest. So the next biggest story, so stories B, C, D, all came out. You know, you had Ricky Fowler, Rory McIlroy, so you had the career Grand Slam in play. You had Jordan Spieth in play. You had Jon Rahm in play. And then you had a very sort of darker figure in Patrick Reed playing the perfect foil to the corporate pitchman of the PGA Tour.
So let's go. That's a lot to get through there, and that's why we love having you on as a guest. Number one, why didn't you think it worked for Tiger and Phil? Because those were the guys that were really driving a lot of the eyeballs. What did both of them do wrong this week?
Well, when Tiger and Phil were at their best, so say from 96 to 2009, they basically took the lion's share of the tournaments and the lion's share of the major championships. But they were both, with a few years exception with Tiger Woods, they were both poor drivers of the golf ball. They drove it all over the place. And they did that, and they got away with it because their biggest foes had holes in their game. You know, they weren't great putters. I'm talking about Sergio Garcia, Ernie Els, Vijay Singh, Adam Scott. They just weren't great putters. They weren't all the way around well-rounded players. Well, now then, you cannot drive the ball poorly and win major championships. There's just too many players that drive the ball great, and there are too many great putters. There are all these young players that are saying, I'm sorry, your era is gone. You got to drive the ball better. Tiger was 50th in driving accuracy this week, and Phil was dead last. Phil's lost a lot off his fastball. He doesn't drive it as far. And Tiger was spotty with his irons where he had been sharp.
Yeah, that was the weird thing about Tiger's round. Is it seemed like, what was on Friday? I think he drove it on the first hole, which, by the way, has been his nemesis forever.
Right.
T. Oliver.
Right.
He drove it within 93 yards of the green.
Right.
And with a wedge, he couldn't keep it on the green. That stunned me.
Right. I figured Tiger would contend. I really did. I didn't think he'd win, but I figured he'd contend because he would figure out a way to get around the holes in his poor driving this year. I figured his iron play would hold him up, and he would chip and putt well because that's what he's been doing this year. But even though he hit some nice drives on holes he historically hasn't, he drove the ball by tour standards terrible. And his iron play was off, and there's just no way you're going to factor in a major championship. I mean, it's great that he's playing, and I thought he was fabulous with the media this week, and I'd love to see that he looks happy, and that's great for golf. But his game wasn't in anywhere near the shape that it needed to be in to compete.
Did you see anything about his game that tells you it will get to that shape, that we'll see Tiger in a competitive form again, whether that's win a major, win other tournaments, or just be competitive? What did you see of his game that tells you this comeback is for real, or nope, it's just a tease again?
Yeah, I've seen enough this year to believe he'll be competitive. I've seen enough this year to believe he'll win again. I've seen enough to think that somewhere down the road, because he's 42, so, okay, that's long in the tooth, but it's not as long as it used to be in the tooth in major championships because, well, there's better fitness, better understanding. But I think he's got another 3 or 4 years where he could eke out 3 or 4 or 5 more wins and maybe another major championship. He's got the speed in his golf swing. He's got a short game back. I think he's just early on trying to put the pieces together in his golf swing. He doesn't have a teacher, so he's his teacher. And he's historically taken 1.5 years, 2 years to find his way with any new swing changes. So I'm going to say he's trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together and, in the process, doing a pretty good job.
All right, Brandel Chamblee with us from the Golf Channel. So let's focus on no longer who didn't win, but who did. You just said Patrick Reed, you referred to him as a darker figure. Look, he's a guy that certainly doesn't mind being that guy, whether it's at the Ryder Cup or when he announced himself as a top 5 player after he'd won his first, I think, win on tour. He's a guy who doesn't mind rubbing people's noses in it and doesn't mind that he's a little rough around the edges. How important is it for golf to have a guy like that be one of the top players in the game?
I think it's good for golf. I think it's good to have the mix. You know, you've got an almost unprecedented run. Actually, it is unprecedented run of young players who are telegenic, social media masters, corporate pitchmen. They're perfect. You couldn't draw these guys up. The Ricky Fowlers, the Jordan Spieths, the Justin Thomases, even Rory McIlroy. But every now and then you need somebody to come along who, look, not everybody's blessed to have been born in an elite family, upper crust, perfectly nuclear intact, complementary family. You know, Patrick Reed came from sort of a checkered family, checkered past. He's estranged from his parents. So, yeah, he's going to be a little different. Nothing was given to him. He had to go out and take it. I look at him as sort of a mix of Nick Faldo and Ian Poulter, right? Nick Faldo was brooding, not the most popular player, nor is Ian Poulter. He had all this bravado, but nowhere near the talent of Nick Faldo and certainly nowhere near the talent of Patrick Reed. You put those two together, and it's a compelling figure. And the more I looked at Patrick Reed's golf swing this week, I'd looked at it in the past, but I looked a lot closer at it. It's gorgeous. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's upright. He's got all this great sequencing, great rhythm, great power, beautiful hands, great touch, marvelous putter. And he didn't blink, not one time. Not one time this week did he hint, really, at stumbling. I mean, every single time somebody challenged him, he'd make a big putt, whether it was at 3 or 12, good iron shot at 7, at 14. He really did show me a lot, both on the golf course and in the media center.
Yeah, look, he did. You're right. The moment never seemed like it was going to be too big for him. But if anybody's seen him play at the Ryder Cup, you knew that was never going to be a problem because the more people saying you can't do it, he's going to do it and throw it in people's faces. So that's why Brandel Chamblee is with us. I was so excited with that final pairing Sunday of Rory and Reed because all I could think of, are we going to have that shootout that we had at the 2016 Ryder Cup at Hazeltine where they were screaming. I mean, it was a WWE experience at the Ryder Cup. That never happened. In fact, to me, Brandel, the most disappointing thing about this entire Masters experience wasn't even Tiger. It was that Rory had a chance to join the most exclusive fraternity in golf and win the career Grand Slam, and he just never had it on Sunday. What happened?
Well, you knew it from the very first swing. Actually, I thought just listening to him in the media center on Saturday night when he was trying to defer the pressure, when he said that Patrick Reed would be playing with all the pressure, I thought when I heard that he was feeling an enormous pressure, and he was trying to just divert the pressure to somebody else, to make light of the fact that he was trying to join the elitist club, far more elite than joining the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, the credentials have become basically a little ridiculous. You can win one major in 15 tournaments to get in the Hall of Fame. But you've got to win all 4 major championships to be one of those who've won the career Grand Slam. So, I mean, enormous pressure that he faced. And the swing he made off the first hole was, I don't know, it was the worst shot I've ever seen in the final group of a major championship on Sunday.
Wow.
I doubt I'll ever see a worse shot than that come from the final group off the tee. I mean, this was the equivalent of the TC Chen double chip back in 1985 that we still talk about. He would have missed the center of the face by an inch and a half. And it didn't go out of bounds, but it certainly looked like it would. He did great to make par. He got a good break. And then he missed a short eagle putt at 2, and he missed the green with the wedge at 3, and it was pretty much over by then. You knew that inside of him, whatever was going on was not going to allow him to play to his talents. I felt like if he could have put pressure on Reed, we might have seen Reed crack. But Rory never did put pressure on Reed. And Reed, when he made the putt at 3, I thought, when that putt went in at 3, because it was going pretty fast, I thought, okay, Reed has inside of him everything he needs to have inside of him to win, and Rory's not going to put the pressure on him, and the chasers are too far back. It's going to be Reed's. So I just sat there all day and ate and drank and enjoyed the Patrick Reed run.
Did you take a nap?
I didn't take a nap.
Okay, we've been arguing about that all day. Okay, well, whatever. But Spieth made an incredible run, 9 back. The storylines we thought at the beginning of the day did not pan out. He was 9 back, -5, an incredible charge. What did you make of that run he got on really kind of towards the second half of his round?
Yeah, I knew when he hit the shot at 5. The pin was back right at 5. And just watching, like Ricky Fowler, hit a shot trying to get it back there, and he knocked it way off the back of the green and made bogey. And most everybody else came up short. The whole location at 5 was so difficult. It's all the way in the back portion of the green. If you tried to get aggressive, you were going to get bitten. But Jordan Spieth got up there and just flighted a mid-iron a couple of feet from the hole. And the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I was like, this guy's the greatest iron player in the game. I thought, this guy's on. Maybe he's got a shot. But his weakness is driving the ball. He drives it short. He can drive it short and crooked. And his weakness is 8-9 feet. And both of those weaknesses reared up on the last hole. He hit for the second time this week. He hit it in the trees. We're straight off the tee on 18. And he had 260 to the green, and he missed about an 8-footer. So, he could have made birdie there, and he would have grabbed a piece of history, shooting 62 and maybe put pressure on Reed. But once again, somebody who could put pressure on Reed didn't do it.
Well, Brandel Chamblee with us. One guy who put at least some sort of pressure on Patrick Reed was Ricky Fowler with his birdie on 18. And I have to ask, is he the most unlucky guy in the world when it comes to what it takes to win a major? I mean, you go back to 2014, he had the lowest aggregate score to par in all 4 majors. He was 32 under par, and he didn't win any of those majors. We looked it up, and I'm sure you know this as well. He was 14 under. The last 2 Masters winners were 9 and 5 under par, and Sergio Garcia and Danny Willett. In fact, in all of 7 majors in the history of the tournament of the Masters, 14 under would have either won or gotten into a playoff, yet Ricky seems to always be coming up 1 stroke short when he's playing his best.
Yeah, well, he doesn't play his best when he's in the lead. He plays his best when he's chasing. And when you put yourself in a position where you're chasing too far back, well, you're going to have a lot of second and third place finishes. At some point, he'll figure out how to play his best when he gets in front. And then when he does that, he'll win a major, or who knows? I mean, he certainly has the talent. I mean, again, he's everything you could dream of. I mean, he's got the social graces of Oprah Winfrey, for crying out loud, and he dresses like Doug Sanders, and he's congenial, and he says the right thing, and he does the right thing, and he's got all the talent in the world. He really does. It's an amazing putting stroke, maybe the best putting stroke I've ever seen. But he just has not figured out how to play his best golf when he's in front. When he does, he'll win.
Well, hopefully that'll be soon when it comes to a major, because he's sort of the missing piece of all these guys that are sort of lumped together. If they all have one, then it becomes really interesting about how it plays out over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, again, unprecedented run of successful players, now 27 and under. I mean, there's never been this many good players this young in the game of golf.
Yeah, it'll be great. All right, Brandel, we appreciate it, buddy.
You betcha. You take care. Nice talking to you, Jordan. Trey, right. Take care.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We are here with Jordan Rodgers, who's in for Mike Golic, who's at the Monday after the Masters tournament. Trey Wingo here, and Tedy Bruschi.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Bitter Brew Face, hey. Love it. Joins us in studio to give us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts.
So Golic is Monday after the Masters. That's the thing.
Yeah, Darius Rucker's tournament down there in South Carolina.
Nice.
It's a thing in a lot of ways. It's a thing.
They take their golf very serious.
I heard you talking about a nap during the Masters.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Friday, it made my weekend perfect already.
Thank you.
I will give you Friday.
My weekend was perfect. Sunday, I didn't sleep during Sunday.
Yeah, you're locked in.
Would you be okay with
I teetered. Boom, back and forth, but then it sort of kept my interest. So
see, there you go. I'm all in with a nap on Friday at the Masters, not on Sunday.
When I knew it was going to be a good weekend when I fell asleep during the Masters on Friday.
That sets you in the right frame of mind.
It was awesome.
Hey, listen,
it was awesome.
We all have our things that we need to do to get us where we need to be. With that in mind, when you hear Odell Beckham Jr., Tedy, is now showing up, and he's there, and Pat Shurmur said he's a team player, where he's a professional. We're glad he's here. After all the talk of this offseason, I'm not going anywhere near the facility. I want to do this. I don't want to do that. I just want to get my contract. How surprised are you that he's there? Because he wasn't there last year at this time. It's voluntary.
I'm not surprised because there is a little game sometimes you have to play to get paid. And there's a little public perception. There's a little, give on my part. And I almost want to say good job by Dave Gettleman, because I think there was a conversation behind the scenes. I think there was a conversation that, listen, we want to make you the highest paid wide receiver. We want you on this team. All right. It's a new GM. It's a new head coach. You have that fresh relationship, but we can't even begin to start with all this talk about you not even coming in or stepping a foot on the practice field before you get your contract. That's not going to happen. You show me something, get here to workouts. Let's then start talking, but not until you get in the facility and show us your part, that you're part of the greater good here for the New York Giants.
So for you, does that mean that draft day, let's say people are trying to make some moves, is he off the table now because he showed effort and put his face in the locker room voluntarily?
I would say this starts talks. I mean, Gettleman's old school. I mean, this is a guy that this is your first year. You don't want to look like you're getting pushed around or Odell Beckham Jr. can do. There are only so many Kirk Cousins out there,
right?
Okay, that can play the game the way that Kirk Cousins did, and that's the quarterback position itself. A lot less possibility of injury. When you're talking about a wide receiver coming off an injury, any positional player, non-quarterback player, the dangers out there that your career you got a little short window, so you got to play the game a little bit. I think come draft time, I don't think they listen because you got to remember also how they treated Eli Manning last year towards the end of the year. It really didn't go over for them well with the fans on how they saw everything and how they stopped Eli's streak of consecutive starts. And the very regime that did that, they went and fired. They fired after that a short time later. So they want to get things going on the right foot, not only for the team, but for the fans, for one of the best players in the NFL out there. So I think this is a good move by Beckham. If Gettleman had something to do with this, I assume it does. Good job by him because your best player's in there now. He's working out, and it boosts morale.
Yeah, Tedy Bruschi with us, our ESPN NFL analyst, and by the way, one of the best follows on Instagram. For a guy who had no social media presence until January, his Instagram count is a must follow. Just
I followed
so you know.
you this morning.
Did you like the caddy tackle?
Absolutely, I did. It's up. There's a picture, and the picture of is when the caddy gives you the wrong advice. Tedy is literally tackling his caddy for pulling the wrong club.
That was a decleater. I laid that guy out.
He takes it seriously.
That was fun.
Let's be clear.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about one more thing with Odell here, because to me, what I find interesting about all of this is a couple of things. Number one, I think when Brandon Cooks was traded away from New England and went to L.A., because Odell's been hanging out in L.A. I mean, that's where he's been. And the idea of him, hey, L.A.'s all in. I was in New York. Maybe I can facilitate a trade here to L.A. There were talks that their people had sort of put in the parameters for a deal. When that was off the table, does that change your mindset a little bit of where you may be able to go?
I can definitely see that, Trey. I see where you're thinking with that because also there's a little bit of a bargaining chip there. If there was a possibility of L.A. showing interest, I mean, I've got another team that's possibly interested in me and giving me my money. So maybe I have a little motivation to wait. Brandon Cooks goes there. Then all of a sudden it's like the major cities too of where Odell Beckham Jr. wants to be. New York, LA.
Right.
I mean, those type of, cities where he can have the most exposure. I would assume that's important to him. I mean, he's one of the most exciting players in the league. New York, LA, Miami, those type of cities. So one more suitor is off the table, and I think it brought him back to New York.
Yeah, the interesting thing there, too, is you heard what Josina Anderson said when she was speaking with Odell. He's excited about Pat Shurmur, excited about this new offense, and that may all very well be true. But, at the end of the day, he wasn't that excited when Pat Shurmur was hired.
Yeah.
He wasn't that excited when Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman started talking about this. Something had to change to make his excitement level a little more intense.
Well, once you decide to make the decision to go in there, that's April talk.
Yeah.
April talk, the usual cliches you have for a new head coach, and bust those out as much as you can. I'm playing the good soldier here. I'm excited for the offense to be utilized more. He was utilized plenty. I mean, the number of targets were
that was my point, right?
Were way up there. Yeah. I mean, Eli was looking for him, and so he was getting him the ball. But that's April talk in terms of when workouts start, when OTAs start. You got to play the game sometimes, and it looks like Odell Beckham Jr. is starting to understand that. And once again, I mean, if it was the upper management that got him in there, I mean, New York Giants, good for them.
Let's talk Patriots. They just signed Go Doors, former Vanderbilt receiver Jordan Matthews, stockpile with draft picks. What do you see them doing? Traditionally, we'd say they're going to trade down and get value out of a lot of those picks, but 2 in the first, 2 in the second. I mean, they got picks galore. How do you think that plays out?
They got. I mean, they're power players in the draft now with all that currency that they have because they can literally do whatever they want. I mean, they can make the selections. The last time they had 2 selections, I think it was Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower. Those are the 2 players that they got. I mean, and those are the 2 players that they had to have liked because Bill won't select a player if he's not worthy of it and if he's not worthy of that slotting also. So, I mean, multiple things can happen, fellas. I mean, if they want a quarterback in the first 2 rounds, I mean, Bill sees his quarterback's 41 years old. He can go with that. Or if he targets a player that he covets maybe defensively up there. I mean, Trey and I were talking about Bradley Chubb. And
His comments at that workout were very interesting.
It was an interesting interaction how Bill said, we pick at 31. We're not going to see you. So good luck, kid. But I think Bill likes Bradley Chubb. I've watched him on film. He's a great player, effort player. He does everything well. So that could be someone that if he drops just a little bit, 6, 7, do the Patriots use that currency to move up? They can do anything. Yeah. They're power players. And really with that type of currency, I can't tell you what they would do because they're going to go by how many quarterbacks go first, how far do the good defensive players drop, and then that's when I move up. So as each pick is selected, just like every team, that's when their goals change, their strategies change based on who's left.
What's their most immediate need, do you think? Top of the draft board right now, not a player, but we need to fill this spot.
I would say front seven wise, you need an edge pass rusher. Yep. I know that. Dante Hightower is a great player, but maybe the linebacker position also because you always need some depth. Elandon Roberts he did well for them the second half of last year, but some type of depth maybe at the linebacker position. But I would think a front seven player.
Look, they gave up 41 points in the Super Bowl. Yeah. There was only 1 sack in that game, and they didn't have it. So as a defensive player, that had to drive you crazy. Hey, can you stick around?
Sure.
I got some more questions for you.
All right.
By the way, Dan Stanzik, our fine producer, is back. He's
fanboy double question guy.
Wait, Golic?
Oh,
of all people? Was considered my question?
Well, we'll see what you do today. 4 guests today.
Dude, just go away. All right, we're talking to Jay Billis. And as far as Notre Dame, they beat Pitt yesterday. Bonzie Colson is back. They're 13-4 with him. We've talked about that situation. They play Virginia Tech. If they win here, do you think they're in? Are they in anyway? Or what do you think their path is?
That's my favorite rejoin ever. He gave you grief for asking 2 questions. He went 47 seconds on the question and asked 3 of them, by the way, Stanzik. Good job by you. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. By the way, this is why I love having Tedy on the show. In the last segment, he just asked the question, were you rooting for Patrick Reed to miss that putt? I wasn't rooting because I didn't like Patrick Reed, but you just wanted to see more, right?
I just love drama, man.
Yeah, you're not embracing the villain that everybody's talking about?
Nah, man, that guy was balling out there, man.
He was.
Pressure player.
Up to the challenge. He was up to the challenge.
But you always, I love pressure situations.
Yes.
And then the missing the putt, Woody will be able to come back from that, adversity, little pressure on the one-on-one playoff. Oh, man.
I wanted a shank. Man. Just off the tee on 18, just
well, he has that helicopter finish he used like Arnold Palmer there to keep that little controlled fade.
But then he makes the putt, and you got to give it up.
Oh,
it's like you shake your head, it's like, yep.
Did what he had to do.
He got it.
That's what Ricky Fowler said. I wanted to make him earn it, and he did by making that birdie, Ricky, on 18. Okay, so in a couple minutes we got left here. Let's talk about a couple of quarterbacks. Andrew Luck is back with the Colts. Do we think, Tedy, after the year off with the shoulder surgery, that the Andrew Luck that we saw in the past will be able to keep back, or will it always be something a little different?
Well, if you listen to everyone speaking out of Indianapolis, they would say like he's ready to go. I mean, Chris Ballard's talking about he's at workouts. He's, starting to throw. All signs point toward, an Andrew Luck that's ready to play and is going to be the starting quarterback for this team. Almost talking about as if the off season he's going to be a full participant. And so that sort of raised my eyes hearing that, because do you baby this guy going into it again, or do you just say he's ready to go? So, they seem like he's ready to go. That would be huge for Indianapolis to have Andrew Luck back, but it sounds like, we've gone over this before. We've done this thing before about Andrew Luck. He looks good. He's going to be fine. He started throwing the process, all of that. But until I see it, you really can't, and you really can't really make a conclusion until if he's there in training camp, if he's there playing that third preseason game. We're going to have to wait and see, I know, because this takes a lot of things, because this is a tough guy. Yeah. This is the tough guy that plays sometimes like a linebacker and is taking hits like linebackers. The offensive line has had trouble protecting him. So there are a lot of things that have to change for Andrew Luck to make it through. Not only coming back, but making it through 16 games.
And physically, what you're talking about is signs, or everybody's saying it points in a good direction. Mm-hmm. But you've been injured before, come back from injuries. Mentally on the field, how difficult is it to overcome, obviously, the physicality aspect of it, but even as a quarterback, how do you mentally overcome that injury? How long does it take sometimes to be back to you?
Right. Usually, you get back and you're usually 100%, and you feel like, especially with all the time that Andrew Luck's taken off, you take that first couple hits. I know it's different as a quarterback. Yeah. I play linebacker. I'm making tackles, all right? I mean, you know better than me, all right, Jordan? But as a quarterback, you're going to take that blindside shot. You're going to take that scrambling and then maybe sliding. All of that stuff he has to do as a first again. The first time he runs for a first down. The first time he stays in there and takes a hit on third down and makes the completion. All of that is a new process because this isn't a sprained ankle. This is something that has been a huge drama for him, and coming back, absolutely, there is some type of a mental hurdle he also has to go through, and also the fact that they're talking about him changing his game. Chris Ballard, I was listening to him speak about him having a wide base, Andrew having a wide base, how they're trying to narrow the base so he can take torque off of the shoulder. Once again, I'm not a quarterback. You know better than me.
So that's
a lot
you can't do that.
That's
either.
a lot of adjustments. Yeah. That's a lot of adjustments to make for a kid that's not only, had an injury to get through, the mental injury we're talking about, but now technique wise, changing your throw back, because to save that shoulder when he was hurt and playing, he did alter his throwing motion. There's so much he has to go through to get through all 16.
Just real quickly, Jordan Rodgers, when you say he can't do that, mean the wide base to a narrow base, what do you mean?
Look at Tim Tebow. How many times did they try to change his throwing motion? These are things that Andrew Luck has been doing since he was a little kid.
Right.
Since before he started playing football, he was throwing probably a baseball or anything in the living room. That's what his body is used to. You can't just, I don't care if it's not your arm, you can't just change something and expect that to hold up when everything's going full speed in the game. You revert to muscle memory. It just doesn't happen.
And you can do it during 7-on-7 and when you're in a protected situation or all the combine workouts, right? When a prospect comes in and then I'm going to hold the ball higher, I'm going to shorten my delivery and all of that. You can see it, but then you get out there playing the game and it's like, there it is again. There it is.
Yeah, Bruschi running at you. It's fight or flight, and you revert to everything your body does subconsciously.
Yeah, doesn't work. It's the natural instinct versus against the learned behavior. Same thing on the range. You can go on the golf range and you hit every shot. Then you get out there and pressure, and suddenly that nice smooth free swing you had on the range.
I'm great on the range.
Not there.
Too.
I got majors in my bag on the range. Majors in my bag, and then I could only carry a bag in a major when it gets out there playing in a competition. So that'll be very interesting going forward because, look, I thought the same thing. When I heard they're changing this to alleviate pressure on her shoulder, I'm like, that doesn't sound like that's going to end well. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Brew, we appreciate you being with us for the bonus segment today. Always good.
Absolutely.
Tedy Bruschi on Instagram. Look him up. It'll be a follow for sure that you want to make sure you're aware of.
Ryan, I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%.